What is going on, everybody? It is episode 822 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett, and I'm here with my co-host. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, crisis actors. It's Mary. We are back from the weekend, and I just suddenly got attacked by this cough that came out of nowhere. I don't know what's going on. Hopefully that it will go away by talking.
Yes.
Somehow.
Because it was we've been here for hours, and then you came in at like 2:51 and started coughing.
I violently start coughing 10 minutes before we start. Whatever. It's fine.
It's going to be fine. We promise. Everything's going to be okay.
We can't catch a break around here.
I mean, the sickness always just skips me.
Yeah, what the heck?
I get lucky, guys. Licked enough door handles as a kid. I'm fine. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. Just a bit of a heads up before we get started for the week. We will have shows on Monday and Tuesday this week, and then possibly on Friday. We don't have that set in stone yet.
That's TBD.
Yes. So
also, before we start, we have a $20 super chat from Shane H. Wilder. Requiescat in pace, Pope Francis. I posted the litany for the faithful departed and tagged Mary and other Catholic friends if anyone wants to pray it. Side note, the canonization of Blessed Carlo Acutis is postponed at this time. That was news to me, and I found it rather peculiar. I didn't know that they were planning on delaying that if Pope Francis died before April 27th. But
wait, that was like the set date of when he was being canonized?
The set date for that was April 27th. I don't know what the new date is going to be, but interesting. We will be getting into that and some of the reactions on social media.
Can I ask a stupid question?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Is Carlo, is that person alive or dead?
He is dead. You have to be dead in order to be canonized.
That's why I said it was a stupid question.
Because the point of it is that if you're canonized, that is the church saying we have evidence to believe this person is in heaven, rather than in purgatory.
Thank you for answering my stupid question.
That is not a stupid question if you're not a practicing Catholic. So
the way that I saw it was like,
it's a reasonable question.
I'm picturing being Carlo, and he's like, "Oh, come on, man!"
I mean, I bet that his mom is like, "Come on,
man!" Like,
because his mom is alive and she was gonna attend.
There you go. So
I don't know.
She's gonna have to wait. She's gonna have to wait. But yes, so we will have shows on Monday and Tuesday. Mary will be gone on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and there might possibly be a show on Friday.
Yeah, that's just TBD because we don't know who else will be available.
Correct.
At this time.
I will be here tomorrow. We will run a show tomorrow. Tate, back by popular demand. I'm going to talk him into it. And Phil will be here.
We don't recognize the Tate brothers. We only recognize Tate.
He's the only Tate we recognize. So we're gonna have a show tomorrow, and then I'm going to be gone Wednesday through Friday. We're doing wedding stuff, which we're very excited about. So what are we getting into today? We're getting into Sinners. If you don't know what Sinners is, it is the most recent movie from Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan. So there was these articles, like the movie did really, really well. It made like $60 million over the weekend. A very, very strong start for a movie that's not based on an IP or a book of any sort. But then Variety wrote this like bitch-made article where they're like, yeah, it's off to a great start, but it's got all this money that it still needs to make if it wants to be profitable. So now people are criticizing Variety. Some people are going as far as to call Variety racist for their framing of this article. I do think
because Ryan Coogler is black?
Yes.
And that's why they think it's racist.
I guess. And yes, so we're going to talk about that because the article was weirdly timed and weirdly worded. So we're going to talk about the pushback there and just the general excellent buzz that this movie has going for it. So we're going to talk about it. We are going to talk about the passing of the Pope. I'm sure Mary has a lot to say, and I'm sure that there's more than a few celebrities who have a lot to say about this, which we will cover.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a lot to say about the passing of Pope Francis more than I have to say about what people are saying about it.
I'll tell you what I'm like, guys. I was looking at this this cheat sheet of like potential replacements, and I felt like I was playing fantasy football.
That's
it was
literally
listing
what people are doing right now.
It was listing like the positives and the negatives of each Pope candidate, and I was picturing myself like, trying to predict who it would be. So,
I mean, you probably can place bets on that.
Yeah.
At the moment.
I'm sure you can in the gambling culture that we live in these days. We're going to talk about that. Also, guys, if you weren't aware, the folks over there at Skinny Talk. If you don't know what that is, it's people who talk about being skinny on TikTok. Yeah. They want to tell you about just why all of the young men in America are apparently going into caloric deficit so they can look like Timothee Chalamet.
He's literally their icon.
He's, look, guys, bulimia. It's not just for women anymore. We've got men doing it now, too. So
smashing gender norms.
We've got that. We've got a bunch of other stuff. If you're ready, Mary, we can just get going. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go for it then.
Justin Bieber made an appearance at Coachella over the weekend, and his behavior is continuing to concern fans and friends and people in his inner circle as well. He was spotted at Coachella shirtless, smoking, drinking, just absolutely crossfaded on who knows what.
Crossfaded.
And he has this bizarre posture. I really can't even describe it, but it's alarming a lot of people to what they believe is drug use, possibly serious drugs.
I mean, he's at Coachella. You'd be weirder to not be on drugs at Coachella.
Depends on what drugs you're talking about, though. Is it normal to do fentanyl at Coachella? No.
I don't know. Like, there was some pictures that I saw where it definitely looked like he had the fentanyl slouch going on, but I don't think that's
is
necessarily.
that what we see in this video here?
So no, let's watch this first.
He's smoking there, and this is a weird posture.
It is.
That's
He's got the
strange.
arched shoulders. His head's forward.
He's not even looking at a phone, right? There's no reason he's looking like that.
Doesn't look like it. That looks like the fentanyl slouch to me if it wasn't for the music, but he's bobbing his head to the music.
He's vibing here.
Yeah. Yes. So look, people have their concerns. I did see one because there was also the video of him at Sexy Red's. Was it like birthday party or something? Right.
That was just last week. He's spotted at Sexy Red's birthday party. But in this one, he appears much more lively. He's jumping up and down. Hey. I didn't even know they were friends.
There was a post that said, bro always looks happier when he's not with his wife.
Yeah.
He does. Like, if you see any picture of them, like, walking in public together, it looks like she said something snotty to him just as they got out of the car. and the vibe got ruined. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's being analyzed from all different angles.
Like, they're going to some fashion event. He's like, you said we'd be out of here at 11. She's like, well, you said you'd do the dishes before we left, but that didn't get done either. And then, like, walks out of the door.
As if people on
do their dishes. I know.
Level of wealth do any of their own house chores.
Well, I mean, what would it be like? You said you were going to buy me another yacht, and you didn't. I don't know. What do people on that level of wealth argue about?
One fan said Justin doesn't look okay and is under some hard influence. They say he needs better friends by his side. They're saying he's in desperate need of help, but others are claiming that he's just enjoying himself. He looks genuinely happy. I would say he looks detached from reality. He looks like he's dissociating.
Look, if you went to any house party from a perfectly normal person who ended up a banker in Scottsdale, and you went to a party that they went to when they were in their mid-20s, they might look drunk and stupid as well. You're looking at clips out of context. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't have a problem. I think that it's more than likely, it seems lately, that he seems to be in chaos, but that's a lot of speculation given the fact that we're not privy to what his life is like on a daily basis outside of stuff that ends up in the media.
Well, you could say that that's relatively common behavior for Justin, like someone Justin's age and his friend group, but he also is the father of a newborn baby, and
so should he even be out
honestly
doing these things?
Don't think that is normal for him to be out partying late at night constantly, especially under the influence of drugs and alcohol on such a constant basis, and also not even accompanied by his wife, who I imagine is more occupied with their family. Their baby was only born, I think 7 months ago, in August 2024. And this is awfully early, in my opinion, for him to be
back out partying
late into the wee hours of the morning.
I'll tell you what. You may have a point, but I think the real problem, his fashion. If he just put on a 3-piece suit, he'd be fine. Like, everywhere he goes, he looks like he's wearing his older brother's clothes. And it adds to the homeless nature of all of the videos.
Well, you don't genuinely think that the only thing amiss here is his fashion sense.
No,
do you?
but I'm saying that, him right here in a 3-piece suit looks different than, him right here looking like he's on the I-9 freeway panhandling.
Right. I mean, he could definitely do himself some favors if he were to dress more respectably, but I think there's definitely more to this than meets the eye. It's deeper than just him wearing baggy clothes and making weird facial expressions.
The real sad one was him at Disney World looking miserable, like he'd rather be anywhere else.
Yeah, that's how he kind of looks all the time unless he's visibly drunk or on drugs, actually. So that's...
No. Just not with his wife. Remember? Maybe he's on drugs. Maybe he's drunk. He's definitely not with his wife.
And that seems to be the tone of a lot of these headlines, that their marriage is in crisis and they are on the brink of divorce. And I think that some people are lending more credence to that than they should. But I've listened to Candace Owens talk about her theories on what's going on with Justin's personal life and what's going on behind the scenes with his career.
What did she say?
And she seems to be of the opinion that all of these headlines churning out in the media about him being in some kind of mental breakdown are actually unfounded, and they're part of a coordinated campaign against him in an attempt to actually push him to that brink. Okay. And that there have been other examples of this being used and targeted on different celebrities in the past, for instance, Michael Jackson. And I don't know if I buy into that theory either, because...
With the coordinated part or the rest of it?
I don't buy into the theory that everything is totally normal behind the scenes with his marriage and that he's not going through an actual struggle right now. He clearly, if he's under the influence this often and around such shitty people all the time, it's part of his choice.
The argument that...
It's not just something that's being conjured up by the media.
I'm not sure if I agree with her, but the argument that the media could work together to destroy a person's mental well-being through headlines is kind of interesting.
I'm sure that it has happened, and I'm sure that that is a tried and true method of PR firms, but I don't know if that's what's going on here. We have a 20 from Pop Culture Junkie. In 1998, I was called into my GM's office at the NBC station in Houston to meet Conan O'Brien. I coughed uncontrollably the entire time. Conan looked genuinely concerned. I was embarrassed. Can you be allergic to someone? Maybe. You were allergic to Conan O'Brien's Irish pheromones?
I'm going to need Pop Culture Junkie to just give us like a full list of everyone that he's met.
Yeah, we're going to need you to name drop literally everyone, please.
No circumstances, so I can then ask you individually about the particular circumstances for each of those people.
And for more context, you sent me this piece in The Hollywood Reporter going into a lot of detail about what is going on with Justin Bieber's career.
It was a very long article.
And the business side of his life, and what people who have worked with him or are currently working with him think of the state he is in. And a lot of it doesn't sound great, but a lot of people don't know this either. He is still creating music. This was back on April 3rd. He released a promo for his new fashion brand called Skylark. And it's a replacement, seemingly, for his previous clothing line called Drew House, which he has now completely broken ties with.
That was the one he was
with. It doesn't represent him anymore.
That was the company he had with Ryan Good?
Yes.
The guy he used to work with?
That was a longtime friend of his who he's seemingly cut off. So he's no longer associated with that clothing line, and he's promoting a new one. And the way he did it was he posted a promo video that was an animation, and it shows Justin riding an electric scooter to a house that promptly burns. And inside it are relics of his past life, including the smiley face logo of Drew House, the clothing line. And outside, waiting while the residence goes up in flames, is Hailey Bieber with a stroller, has her baby in it. The two then kiss and walk toward the sunset, holding hands and never turn back. And the symbolism here is far from subtle because obviously Scooter Braun is his longtime manager who he is now seemingly blocked on social media. And he's riding a scooter in the video.
I was interested.
And then,
the thing I found most interesting about that article is they were away from the context of Taylor Swift. They were pretty neutral on Scooter Braun, mainly saying like, you know, he ruffled some feathers, but he was a good businessman. Seemed to be the context of what they were saying.
Another thing they credited Scooter Braun with doing was basically cleaning up after all of Justin's misbehavior.
Peeing in a mop bucket.
That they somehow managed to still maintain a good boy image for Justin despite all of his reckless behavior over the years, and now that he has cut ties with his former management team, including Scooter and many others,
they're not cleaning up from it.
He seems to be facing the consequences of his own actions. And they interviewed a lot of people, many of whom stayed anonymous to give their thoughts on how he's doing behind the scenes. One former collaborator says, whatever he's going through, I pray for him and hope he's okay. Another team member who didn't name themselves said, seeing him disintegrate like this, it's watching the embodiment of someone not living their purpose. He's lost. There's no one protecting him because there's no one willing to say no to him. You say no and you get blown out. And Perez Hilton added his thoughts, saying Justin Bieber is like a male Britney Spears. He's trolling partly because he wants attention and also because he thinks he's so funny. And another source that remained anonymous says that this is Justin Bieber doing some kind of 4D chess. They don't look at the world the way you and I do. He's healthier than all of us, physically and mentally. He's managing himself through his own family office now, and there's skepticism on if he can do it alone. He's leaving home for the first time. He's building a business without the team that took him here. He's feeling pressure, but he can do it at the end of the day. Justin Bieber is a star, and consumers still want Justin Bieber. He's showing courage and foresight on what the industry is going to look like in the future.
I don't understand what that foresight is.
Yeah, this is not showing any of that. But I think it's because the people who named themselves in the article were praising him, and the people who stayed anonymous were criticizing him. And that kind of says everything you need to know about the climate in his social circle.
So what does the image end up being for somebody? So he's no longer teen heartthrob. You're too old to be the artist acting out because you've got kids now. So you're not going to end up being like honestly, the safest path for him, residency in Vegas.
The Britney Spears path?
Get like lock him down to a schedule that's so busy he doesn't have the free time to.
Well, now you're prescribing him the Britney Spears mental breakdown.
No. That's because they made her do that. I'm saying he, of his own volition, should go do it. They talk in that article about he's kind of made to be on stage.
Sure.
I mean, I'm being hyperbolic here. I don't know. He's too valuable to do a Vegas residency right now. He could still do stadium tours if he wanted to.
Maybe when he's in his 70s, a Vegas residency.
I'm just trying to think of ways to limit his exposure to bad influences, and I don't think it's 4D chess of any sort.
I think what everyone is noticing is that he doesn't seem to have a lot of self-determination, and it seems like he's been on a leash his entire life. Maybe not by the most trustworthy people. And it's not like cutting off the previous team made sure that all of the toxic people were gone from his circle. It just means there's a new team to supplant them.
Yeah.
Who may have even worse intentions.
Yeah, you've entered an unknown quantity where the other ones, if they were bad in a way you at least understood and clearly were still able to be successful around. Now you've put yourself around people who you have no idea what they're even capable of helping you achieve.
And regardless of whether you think this is Justin Bieber trolling everyone, he's clearly not trolling very effectively if the prevailing narrative is that he's crashing out and turning into Michael Jackson. Like, that's probably not what he's going for in his public image. And he seems to be very distressed, especially in that recent video where he's yelling at paparazzi. yeah, now is not the time to be like garnering negative attention. He probably should just be focusing on his family. And there's also the worrying influence of this spiritual guide, his pastor named Judah Smith.
Yeah.
He runs this community church in Beverly Hills.
It's like a non-denominational church, right?
Yeah, it's in Beverly Hills. It's called Church Home, and there are a lot of prominent celebrities who are a part of it and thousands of people. It's a mega church. And this guy, Judah Smith, is credited with being Justin's spiritual advisor, which just sounds so sinister to me.
It does. It sounds charlatan-esque.
It does. And, you know, that goes
The Lord
for anyone.
said you should invest in this startup.
I believe that Judah Smith is a pastor as much as I believe that Harley Pasternak is a fitness trainer. Meaning I don't. And I think they're both sinister weirdos who probably sunk their claws into powerful, influential celebrities for nefarious purposes. But that's just my take.
All right, let's move on.
There are several videos going viral showing Anne Hathaway at a recent Ralph Lauren fashion show looking immaculately ageless. It's almost to the point where it's creepy. I almost didn't recognize her because she has no defining features. She looks just the same age she was 20 years ago, but less like herself. And the debate going on currently is who is to blame for this? A plastic surgeon, a witch, adrenochrome, Facetune? What's going on here?
I don't think she looks the same as she did 20 years ago. I actually think that she looks different.
Her face has less character than it had 20 years ago, but also hasn't aged.
She had actually no. The thing is, we're going to be redefining what aging is, and eventually 40 is just going to look exactly like this to people. The problem was, like, before, her face had defined cheekbones and a defined chin. Now her face is just one formless blob, albeit well done blob.
Yeah, I mean, she looks good. Let's play the video. She looks good. I'm not going to deny that. But there's something about looking at her in this video, it seems to just not be Anne Hathaway. It's like kind of she's turning into a blank slate. Mm-hmm. And this is something that tends to happen when people get plastic surgery, Botox, fillers. Everyone starts to look the same and they adopt the so-called Instagram face. This is another angle that shows her posing in motion, and it's almost inhuman. Like, she doesn't have a lot of movement in her face. It's great for photos because there's no movement in photos, but in a video, it's kind of uncanny valley, right? And people are praising her looks. They're saying they hope they can age like this. And I see so many viral posts on X comparing Anne Hathaway to a vampire, doing these before and after comparisons. Like, this one is 2006 Anne Hathaway in The Devil Wears Prada compared to 2023 Anne Hathaway. Same hairstyle, same outfit, everything. She looks to not have aged at all. And then in this other photo comparison, you see her, I believe, at 17 years old. And in the second photo, 41 years old. In this, you can see a little bit more of a change because she has less facial volume. Like, her cheeks are more chubby and youthful in the first photo. But still, 41, that's impressive. Like, she looks really, really good for her age. And it reminds me of the movie she was in last year, The Idea of You, where she plays this, like, cougar character. She's a single mom who hooks up with a guy who's, like, way younger than her. And it's this trope in the movie that there's this stigma, this scandal around their age gap. And it was so bizarre to me that they chose her for that character because if you look like you're his age, there's no taboo around it. If you don't look 40 whatever years old, you look 27 at 40, where is the taboo in dating someone who is 27? It just kind of defeats the whole purpose of the plot.
That just proves that there's the fantasy around it for them is not congruent with it's more congruent with the fact that they don't want to age. And so they date as if they're in their mid-20s. They get plastic surgery to look as if they're in their mid-20s. It's a perpetual state of youthfulness.
And in that movie, which allegedly is based on a Harry Styles fan fiction, she's with this guy in every scene that I came across. She's like, oh, why do you like me? Like, I'm so old or whatever. And then he's like, I don't care, you're hot. And then they make out. I don't know. Like, that's the point of the movie. Yeah. It's clearly a self-insert. But there's this other video that shows Anne Hathaway throughout the years.
I don't know if I want to watch the whole thing. It's pretty long. It's like several minutes long. It's 1:34. Here we go. We can't play the song because we'll get copyrighted.
Well, the point being is that obviously you can see very little change take place, at least up until recent years. I think in recent years you can see there might be plastic surgery, Botox, or fillers at play. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, people want to believe that there's some kind of magic potion out there, and that's the counterpoint that I've been seeing. One take is that the facelift at 40 is the new norm. Mm-hmm. Stop buying nonsensical potions and lasers. It's a facelift. People are claiming that this is the same plastic surgeon who allegedly like reconstructed Lindsay Lohan's face, reconstructed Donatella Versace, even Madonna, people were saying, where they do a facelift, but it's not all in one. They facelift each individual portion of your face so that it doesn't look like your skin has just been pulled back. But the reply says, people are angry at the truth. Feel free to keep spending thousands of dollars on lotions and treatments that will never get you facelift results. There's an entire industry depending on your undying consumerism. To be fair, though, the plastic surgery industry is also dependent on your undying consumerism and vanity.
Just one that works.
It's just a one-stop shop. It's not one that keeps you buying a product for years on end. It's more of a one-time thing.
You know whose opinion we need on this is Colonel Kurtz, because Colonel Kurtz takes very seriously the care to her face, and she talks about it on her channel.
She's a little bit of a skincare expert. We could patch her in for details, but she knows all about the stem cells and like all of this stuff. It just kind of flies over my head.
You know what it is, guys? Just be like, you have to shoot for a life where you're simultaneously not challenged but also not very happy, because if you're too happy you'll smile too much and you'll get, but if you're too challenged and too sad then you'll get frown lines. You kind of want to just live like this,
emotionless robot,
like every day, but in a way that doesn't challenge you or give you gray hairs, because you'll age prematurely then too.
I know you're joking, but the actual solution isn't hugely different. It's literally just don't be exposed to sunlight. That's it. That's the magic. I thought
sun was good for you. Like, not excess sun, but like you need sun.
Something being good for you isn't the same thing as it having cosmetic results. Being exposed to sunlight is the #1 cause of aging skin. That is it. Damn. But otherwise, you're going to have to turn to surgery and unnatural methods. Another one said, listen, I support people doing whatever they want to their face, and she looks stunning, but I'm going to need people to stop acting like she isn't getting crazy work done and looks more and more Eastern European every time I see her.
What did she look like before she looked Eastern European?
If you want to turn 40 and look like your husband has oligarch mining money and like you collect Serbian cats, I actually think that's one of the coolest things you could do, but I feel crazy that everyone is in denial about this.
That's me. I'm the one who looks, I'm going to be the one who looks like my husband has Eastern European mining money.
Here's another hack, though. Just wearing a super tight ponytail that almost tears your scalp off.
She always had the tight ponytail in there. She's like, look, a daily migraine is the price you pay for
a ponytail is a free temporary facelift for many. And this reminded me of Paris Hilton addressing the claims that she got Botox and plastic surgery. She claims that she is all natural.
This, here we go.
I feel really proud that I'm all natural. I've stayed out of the sun. I've never done any Botox, injectables, no surgery, nothing.
What?
And my mom told me, like, when I was 8 years old, Paris, stay out of the sun. And then she taught me this amazing, like, 10-step skincare routine So I've literally been doing that since I'm 8.
Don't go out and get any exercise, Paris. And if you do, make sure it's indoors, apparently. There's a 20 there from, can't read it.
From Gayton J. So Anne Hathaway is a day walker?
Apparently.
Are you saying you know what a day walker is, Brett?
I have no idea.
Well, what is it then?
I said
seemed
apparently.
like you knew. I've never heard the term before.
So, look, for Paris Hilton, that's obviously an old clip,
Yes.
right?
Not that long ago.
How long ago?
We only talked about it like last year. So I assume nothing has changed since then.
No, how old is the clip itself? I thought you said the clip is... Oh, the clip is just a year old.
Yeah, this is like a recent claim.
Okay.
Where she was addressing rumors that she had work done. And I don't know whether to believe her, but I know one thing is for sure. No 8-year-old should have a 10-step skincare routine. You can just let your child be a child and not worry about vanity.
Oh, yeah. I guess, would Daywalker be like Wesley Snipes in Blade? Vampire who can be in the vampire can be in the sun.
Well, then yes.
Yeah.
According to some claims online.
There you go.
Another hint might be that she's completely lost her dimples. You used to see Anne Hathaway smile with dimples.
Okay.
And now when she smiles, there's nothing there. Her face is just eternally flat.
Wait, I thought you said... I mean, but part of it was just that her cheeks were puffier when she was younger. So
that doesn't mean your dimples will go
but
away.
I'm saying, but
if
like,
your
so
face
now,
loses
so the
volume,
face, so she, the face lost volume from aging and then was pulled tight from the facelift.
yes.
Yeah.
But normally, over time, as you lose facial volume, if you already have dimples, they're only going to get more noticeable. And now on her, they're invisible.
Okay.
So that's another hint. You shouldn't assume that any of this is natural, but people will continue getting fooled and they'll see her maybe do a promotion for some skincare line and immediately buy into it because they rely on people being gullible.
All right. Let's move on.
Meghan Markle is embroiled in yet another scandal over plagiarism. If you don't recall, back in 2020, her and Prince Harry signed a deal between their production company, Archwell Studios, and Netflix for over $100 million. All that has come of it so far is, first off, their docu-series, Harry and Meghan, where they cried about how they're victims of the media for 8 episodes. And then further after that, With Love, Meghan, which of course is her recently aired cooking show. But one project that got lost in the mix and eventually canned and erased from public memory was a children's animated series called Pearl. And this is from an archive on the Archwell Studios website. Pearl, that was the working title at the time, is described as an animated series that centers on the heroic adventures of a 12-year-old girl who is inspired by influential women from history. Let me guess. One of them is Susan B. Anthony. Yes. Maybe another one is Harriet Tubman. Maybe another one is Rosa Parks.
I bet you Hillary Clinton is in there,
maybe
too.
even Amelia Earhart.
Yeah.
So it continues. The Duchess of Sussex will serve as an executive producer alongside David Furnish, who is, I believe, Elton John's husband. And this is the official synopsis. Like many girls her age, our heroine Pearl is on a journey of self-discovery I'll do it in a Meghan Markle voice, as she tries to overcome life's daily challenges. I'm thrilled that Archwell Productions partnered with the powerhouse platform of Netflix, and these incredible producers will together bring you this new animated series, which celebrates extraordinary women throughout history. David Furnish and I have been eager to bring this special series to light, and I am delighted we are able to announce it today. That's from her press release back in 2021.
That was the voice she does.
That's, the voice you will hear if you go listen to episodes of her podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder, or the previous one that flopped, the Archetypes podcast. Yes. But it was short-lived because then by May of 2022, there was no evidence to be found that this project ever existed, and people thought maybe it was just dead in the water. The reason seems to be, according to new information, they received a cease and desist for alleged plagiarism from a children's author named Mel Elliott in the UK, who recently spoke to the Daily Mail about their communication behind the scenes. She sent a legal letter suggesting potential infringement of copyright in relation to her own creation, which is a book series about a British girl named Pearl Power. She followed up with 2 further personal letters. Here is her official statement. Meghan Markle is a feminist who sticks up for other women. So I was disappointed and confused to see how similar Netflix proposed show Pearl was to my own Pearl Power, who had been created 7 years earlier. Of course, I can't know if anyone on her team had seen it and been inspired by it, but the similarities were too great for me to ignore. The world of arts and media are very competitive, and I'm afraid it's common for powerful people to rip off the work of less-known creatives. Although I'm not saying that's what happened here, what saddened me most is that having brought the similarities between my Pearl and Meghan's Pearl to the attention of Netflix and Archwell Studios, my objection was never acknowledged. Neither Netflix nor Archwell responded to me when I would have loved to contributed and collaborated. Mel had already written 3 books in this children's series before the animated series was ever announced, and then it was quietly killed before it was ever close to production stages. And it seems logical that it's because they were worried about getting sued. Yeah. We have another 20 from Pop Culture Junkie. I've met 100 plus famous / semi-famous folks. Met many when I was on the film critic junket circuit, met others at network meet and greets and promotion meetings when I was a creative director for ABC, CBS, NBC affiliates, and Fox O&O. What is O&O?
I don't know.
Well, we weren't asking about that. We want you to name drop. We want a full list.
Brag,
of your
my friend.
We want the Pop Culture Junkie client list. Yeah. We want the flight logs.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't end there. I am not familiar with the children's book series, so I don't know if it was a similar concept for the character where she's spending time with all these historical figures.
So it's just the bad luck of having the same name?
It goes further than that, though, because they pointed out all the previous examples, and it's kind of hard to call to mind how many times Meghan Markle has been accused of copycatting until it's placed in quick succession listed out here. So first off, she was even accused of copying. Thank you.
She's going to have a crisis party in her next show.
She's having a copycat crisis. So this is the most recent example. Pamela Anderson accused Meghan Markle of copying her Cooking with Love show with the name for Meghan Markle's Netflix show, With Love Meghan, where it's just Cooking with Love, but without the cooking part. And then the executive producer of Pamela Anderson's series shrugged it off publicly, at least, saying, "We take pride in planting the first seeds. It's a compliment to see our work resonate so strongly." That's
such a humble brag and shade at the same time.
So essentially they meant she copied, but we're not going to sue because that's too much work. And then they also listed the plagiarism controversy around Meghan Markle's lifestyle brand logo, which was almost to a T the same as the coat of arms for this small Spanish village. Mm-hmm. We talked about that back when the lifestyle brand was launched, the emblem. And then I didn't even know about this one, but as you know, Meghan Markle recently launched a new rebranded podcast about entrepreneurship and feminism called Confessions of a Female Founder, which already existed. There was already a podcast under the same exact title launched by a female entrepreneur more than a year ago.
Yeah.
And I would understand if maybe this were launched 5-7 years ago under the same name and it was an inactive podcast that barely existed. But the fact that it was created more recently than that makes me think they were just out of ideas. And that continues to be the pattern with Meghan Markle. She has none of her own original ideas or thoughts, expects the teams at these companies like Netflix to come up with them for her, gets mad when they don't, and the last resort happens to be just copying and mining other people's creations. She has no original thoughts. And she also has, of course, an extremely inflated ego and sense of self-importance. And as I've pointed out, she seems to think of herself as the reincarnated Princess Diana, which is so Freudian that it's actually disgusting. This reminded me because there was a recent headline. Meghan Markle hires an over-the-top 4-car motorcade for her night out on Broadway in New York. And this was from hiring former Secret Service agents. They say the Duchess of Sussex was taken to the Broadway show Gypsy on Thursday night with 3 SUVs and an unmarked police car. So there was the unmarked police car, the car that Meghan was in, and then 2 decoys, just in case there was someone planning to assassinate her or something. I just feel like she's writing fan fiction in her head about being swarmed by paparazzi a la Princess Diana on that fateful night. But as one reply pointed out, she paid for 2 extra decoy cars to make it look like she's more important than she is. Taylor Swift constantly walks around New York and doesn't go to this extreme. Who does she think she is?
Wait, like how many cars is enough? Are we saying like 2 cars is enough? I think she's gonna have a body double soon.
I mean, who knows? Maybe she already does. People have said that she's hired like a robot version of herself to make public appearances with Prince Harry.
Well, yeah, she doesn't want to have to deal with the commoners.
And other people have thought that she was completely faking her pregnancies, wearing a strap-on belly while hiring surrogates for both. There are a lot of wild theories. I don't know if I believe them all, but the point being,
this is not still being paid for by the British taxpayers, right? They're no longer
because she's not
security.
part of the royal family. They do have to pay out of pocket for security. Yes.
Well, she can afford it. She got like a gazillion-dollar deal from Netflix.
Right.
Where was she going? Did they say where she was going?
That was her going to a Broadway show.
Okay. So then
she's a theater kid at heart.
Do they then like take out the whole row because she's got to have like 4 security guards on either side of them?
They have to like stop all the other people at the show from leaving until she does.
Yep.
You know, just in case someone is after her.
8 cars seems a bit excessive. How many is it for Secret Service? Does anybody know?
Taylor Swift, for reference, usually has 2 cars, the car that she is in and a security car with her team. And if she's going somewhere, she has a separate car on site with her team already there, but they don't travel together.
This could be very mimetic in the way that, like, you know the memes of like Taylor Swift when she walks from one side of the house to the other and they show the plane flying to the other side of the house?
So one anonymous source said Meghan is out of control and it's ridiculous if the city is paying for this, obviously because this is one of them is a police car. They say if NYPD was not on duty, then they shouldn't be allowed to run lights. Somebody's got to be paying for it. So this is like taxpayer funded ego tripping.
Yeah. I mean, was there like some type of security threat assessment that was done that said if she goes to see this play in particular that she could be in danger?
Like, I'm sorry, you're not nearly important enough to worry about.
I mean, maybe she thought that the lady who wrote the Mel Elliott lady had some special forces training and thought she was going to find her at the play.
Well, they say it's something that can be made available based on the threat assessment and circumstances of where they're going and what they're doing. Okay. Theoretically, if she's on some sort of foreign dignitary mission to meet with a political official with Prince Harry in tow and their children, maybe you could justify this. But you, on your own, going on a night out in the town to watch a Broadway show because you're a theater kid, I don't think this really makes sense.
I feel like I would just be upset that I was inconveniencing a bunch of people. I guess it's not really because they're getting paid, but it'd be just like, oh, this feels excessive.
Yeah, others have no such sense of shame is the problem.
I wonder what she'll go see next. I wonder if she goes to the movies and then they have to like all sit in the theater with her.
Nah, she uses her celebrity connections. She can get an early screening.
Oh, she gets screener copies.
Yeah.
That's annoying. See, she's hurting herself again. What she needs to do if she's going to enter her villain arc is go to a theater and loudly be on her phone and have
No, just pull a Lauren Boebert with Prince Harry.
Oh, you're talking at the play.
Yeah.
We never did find out whether she went and saw the Beetlejuice movie after that whole Beetlejuice debacle at the theater.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know what we're talking about,
it was an assault on the senses.
Lauren Boebert got in trouble for getting frisky at like a movie.
Frisky.
At like a
frisky business.
Not at a theater, at a play.
She was up to some frisky business at a family establishment.
It was very
unacceptable.
It was very unacceptable and unbecoming of a government official.
Disgusting.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's 8 cars is too many. She needs 2 cars. That's all she needs. 2 cars.
How about none?
One for her and one for Harry, so he doesn't have to listen to her.
Yeah.
All right. What would you like to see? Cringe or cute of the day?
Let's see cringe first.
Cringe first? Okay. All right. What does this one say? It says, this is from somebody named Hallie. It says, been a year since the infamous Bride video. Let's see what she says.
Weirdest thing about me, I can't even say it. They're literally never going to talk to me again. It's so weird. It's so weird. But as a 2024 bride, I hate wearing the color white.
Oh my God! Holy shit!
And my bridal shower is next week. And somebody just asked me, what white dress am I wearing to the shower? Who said I'm wearing a dress? Who said I'm wearing white?
She has to be doing this to annoy people. This is a skit, right?
Look, if it is, props.
I don't like being the center of attention.
Okay, it's a skit. It has to be a skit.
I don't like when the spotlight is on me. I don't feel like I need to advertise that I'm the bride. I know so many brides really, really.
She teaches preschool, right?
That's how I feel right now.
She has to teach preschool.
Love to be the center of attention. I'm not judging at all, but it's just not me. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert. And so when I'm the only one in white and everyone's saying, she's the bride, she's the bride, she's the bride. Yes, I am the bride. But I'm also no different than any of you.
Women are say what you want about women's comedy, but women's ability to be hilarious on Instagram knows no bounds. That woman's job was to annoy you, and it worked.
It did work.
It got me in like the first.
I applaud her.
It got me in like the first 20 seconds, but after that, it was a skit. It had to be.
But no, it's believable because, this person is really, they exist. They exist out there. And we know it.
That was amazing.
There's like a little bit of a humble brag bridezilla vibe.
Oh my gosh. I hate being the center of attention. And I'm not even outgoing. I'm an introvert, actually.
Oh my goodness. An engagement party and a bridal shower and a bachelorette party. I can't.
See, that's the thing, guys. The problem is for the ladies is this is the type of comedy that will never make it onto SNL. Even though it would arguably probably do better.
See, this is what I'm saying. SNL should make skits about things that people understand in the world, not things that are chronically online. You know?
You know why? Because instinctually, on some level, this character that she's playing, someone like that.
Yeah, this is fertile ground for comedy.
Yep.
Not jokes about Chapel Roan and the Rizzler.
The top comment says, "But you're wearing white." Yeah, that's the point. She's out to troll you.
Yes,
she's out to troll you. She's giving off like killed her spouse in his sleep energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when the cops show up, she's in the fetal position with the knife next to her, bobbing back and forth.
I don't want the spotlight.
Yeah.
I don't want the spotlight.
All right, cue of the day. This one's from Misguided. I hope that's your actual name. Cat sitting for a friend while she's in Italy. Well, aren't they lucky?
Oh. That's
Cute.
like one of my dream side hustles, actually.
Cat
You
sitting.
barely have to do anything. They're just keeping to themselves the whole time.
All right.
Very cute.
All
very
right.
Fluffy.
Well, we actually because we're going out of town, so our cat sitter does have to give Mocha her medication. So there's some additional responsibilities in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Let's get started. Okay. So what did you talk about? So Sinners. If you guys don't know, Sinners came out over the weekend. It made $61 million at the box office, $45 million domestically, the rest overseas. It went far beyond the expectations people had for it. If you don't know, this is a brand new movie from director Ryan Coogler and actor Michael B. Jordan, who plays twin brothers in that film. And it's doing really, really well. The word of mouth is fantastic on this film. The problem is certain Hollywood trade publications seem to have their own vendetta against this film.
Yeah, I can't imagine why, but it seems like Variety is running a nasty game behind the scenes against the success of Sinners at the box office with the following headline: Sinners has amassed $61 million in its global debut. It's a great result for an original R-rated horror film, yet the Warner Bros. Release has a $90 million price tag before global marketing expenses, so profitability remains a ways away. I went into the article that lists the box office returns for a lot of different projects here, but the part about Sinners says, Sinners, a vampire thriller from Black Panther director Ryan Coogler and star Michael B. Jordan, opened to $15.6 million overseas from 71 markets, far bigger in the US and Canada, topping the box office with $48 million. In all, Sinners has amassed 63.5, this is the updated number, in its global debut. Monday's final number was above Sunday's estimates of 45.6 million domestically and 61 million globally. And then they say profitability remains a ways away. And this is talking more about the story behind it. But then I also saw New York Times had a similar headline at the same time saying Sinners is a box office success with a big asterisk. And they say Ryan Coogler's original horror film was expected to sell a strong $46 million in tickets over the weekend, enough for number one, but its profitability remains a long way off.
Okay, so here's the thing. A bunch of people on X were attributing this to racism.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about that. What I would like to believe is that this is an offshoot of Zaslav derangement syndrome, because this is a Warner Brothers movie. Right now, this weekend, both Minecraft and Sinners were both Warner Brothers movies pulled in over $40 million at the box office. So Zaslav stays winning, slashing budgets, saving their studio money.
Well, I don't want to stray from the racism allegations too quickly, because I have seen this before. This is familiar to me. Here were some of the replies. I don't know how to explain it, but this post is racist as hell. Another one said, the media goes to extreme lengths to make black films not seem profitable. A ways away is crazy.
It is not fair to put that on the movie for its opening weekend, but
this is another one. Variety. How to say the N-word without actually saying the N-word.
Okay, now you're...
That is absolutely insane. Like, the way they're reacting to this is familiar to me because I heard the same thing when people didn't care for Nope from Jordan Peele. If you said anything negative about a Jordan Peele movie, you're racist.
By the way, Sinners was the biggest opening for an original movie not based on an IP or a book this decade. In fact, the biggest one since Us from Jordan Peele in 2019.
We have a 20 from Joker. I write Sins Not Tragedies is Mary going to When We Were Young festival. No, I'm not planning on going to that. It's not really my crowd. A lot of millennials who really can't move on with the times rather stay home. That and also the emo cruise. I cannot imagine the viral diseases that are spreading in a place like that. Ben Stiller reacted to Variety's headline saying, in what universe does a $60 million opening for an original studio movie warrant this headline? coming out to basically defend Ryan Coogler and the performance of this movie because it's remarkable. It is. And you shouldn't really expect a movie to completely make back all of its money within 3 days.
No.
That's not even something we expect of blockbuster movies these days. I do think 90 million before marketing is too big of a budget for the story that they're presenting.
So, it was
Would you agree?
80 to 90 million. And then what happened was it actually ballooned to higher than that. It went to over 100 million. But Ryan Coogler himself covered that by forfeiting like his back end compensation for this movie if it does well, and like coverage on his fees. So I don't know if that means like he sacrificed some of his salary or most of his salary to get this movie produced and made. But look, normally I would say yes. But here's the thing. I actually think that his name as a director now has reached sufficient enough levels that he warrants pulling that budget out of the studio. Now, if you took a lesser known director and attached them to this film, I don't think you give it that budget. But okay, here's the thing. I was just thinking about it. So I did a video that will be coming out later this week on the death of the mid-budget movie, and that's how I imagined this movie being, like something in the 30 to 60 to 70 million dollar range. I was kind of shocked that it was more than that. But the thing was, like, one of my favorite movies last year, or it might have been 2023, was The Killer starring Michael Fassbender. And I was kind of going to make that argument about how these other movies that were considered mid-budget were in the same vein. And I found out that The Killer cost $175 million to make, but it went straight to Netflix. So for these theater releases, like if you can keep that budget under the $100 million mark with a well-known director and a lead actor who he's worked with, you know, on a regular basis, meaning that him and Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan have made a lot of movies together. They didn't just do, they did Fruitvale Station. They did Black Panther because he was in the first Black Panther movie. Was the one with Stallone. They did the Rocky spinoff and all that stuff. So they've got a track record, and he is a generally successful director. I don't think the budget is out there for him.
It's probably an insufferable person, though.
I mean, artistically, if he can back it up, I guess that's his business, right?
Here's a take I want to hear your response to. I miss when we used to just watch movies and not talk about budgets and marketing costs.
That's one of the reasons that this comes up, right? So just this year, we started seeing how the studios, or at least the Hollywood Handle and the Discussing Films would start reporting budgets and then start reporting like the marketing budget as well and start talking about breaking even, because they like to use it as a way of pushing back on audiences that say, look, this movie wasn't successful. This movie didn't make the money that it needed to. And I think the reason for that is they don't like the fact that people can use metrics like the money as a surefire way to tell you whether something does good or not. So if somebody wants to tell you a movie is woke, you can have an argument all day about what that means. But if you want to say this movie isn't successful, if you have a general basic understanding of how Hollywood math works, even though they're going to fudge those numbers and going to move stuff around from one account to another, if a movie cost $100 million to make and it only makes $50 million at the box office, you have an ironclad, point to be made about whether this movie resonated with audiences. And they don't, I think they don't like the surefire nature of that type of argument.
Because it's just based on facts.
Yes.
Like, I think there's still a sting from what happened to Snow White and the fact that most of the media turned against Rachel Zegler and the movie once it came out. I'm noticing that some people are doing deep dives into the Variety contributor that wrote this article. Her name is Rebecca Rubin, and people are pointing out that somehow it matters that she's Jewish, and they're counter-signaling a minority auteur because we live in the Trump era. I don't know how any of that strings together into a coherent thought, but most of the watermelon emojis are resoundingly saying this is Variety in a coordinated racist attack against Ryan Coogler and also all minority directors in Hollywood.
So it goes straight to race. Remember when Sound of Freedom was coming out and it was a Q film and they didn't even talk about what the movie was about. They just talked about QAnon conspiracies. These trade publications can absolutely shift the narrative around a film if they want to. But this movie has great word of mouth and it's going to do well at the box office.
We have a 20 from Pop Culture Junkie. Here's $20 worth. Harrison Ford, Eddie Murphy, Jamie Lee Curtis, Ridley Scott, Sigourney Weaver, Roddy McDowell, Gene Simmons, Jay Leno, Mary Hart, Tyra Banks, Katharine Graham, Ben Bradley, Geraldo Rivera, Roger Ailes, Lachlan Murdoch.
Wonder what Geraldo was like.
Roger Ailes.
Wait, the
we were
dude
just
from
talking about him the other day.
We just talked about him.
Hope that nothing bad happened to you in his office. That's impressive. I'm sure there's more too that we haven't heard about.
People really hate it when we have the discussions about the budgets of movies and whether they're going to, make a profit.
I'm not like rooting for Sinners personally. I haven't seen it. I don't really know what it's about, but it seems pretentious, and I'm sure Ryan Coogler is an insufferable entitled person. And I think that that's shown enough by the fact that, he directed Black Panther and the kind of messaging that's in that. They're still pushing a racial narrative. It's not a one-sided thing. Haley Steinfeld is participating in it as well with one of the interviews she did to promote Sinners. She's talking about how this movie connected her to her ancestral roots because one of her grandparents was half Black. This was her comment on it. It had such an impact on me personally. I think it's the least I can do is make an impact on those who watch it. I think it affected all of us personally and so deeply, and I do believe that you feel that and you see that when you watch this movie. I'm so grateful for the deeply personal connection that each of us have to the material. Mine being with my family history, with my grandfather, who I wish was here still to answer all the questions that I have that this movie raised for me and making this movie raised. Meaning, I guess she wishes that her half-Black grandfather on one side were around to watch this movie. Because you need to somehow bring it into the conversation you have like a drop of minority DNA so that people will pay attention to you.
From everything that I've been told about this movie from all sides is that whatever you want to say about the allegory is that it's artistically well layered enough that it doesn't matter. So I can't speak to that because I have not seen it, but I am.
The allegory being that the vampires are...
That there is a racism allegory. Let's look at the tweet. This one really made me laugh here. This person said, can't stop thinking about the significance of the main vampire being Irish in Sinners. He empathizes with the oppression of Black Americans, but ultimately weaponizes his whiteness to become the thing that he hated the most by forcing his way of life onto them. And then Jay Longbone says, this app has the talent of making one of the best films in years sound like something you'd never want to watch. And that was all over X this weekend. There was people making Sinners about feminism. There was because of the care that was put into directing and photographing the female characters. There was people making it about smashing capitalism, and everyone's like, what? Like WUT what? Like, what are you talking about?
Well, I guess if when you people get into can twist it that much into all of these different narratives, then maybe that shows it wasn't too heavy-handed with any one of them. I was just listening to like one of the X-Files reviews, and they talk about how when Scully gets cured of her cancer, they leave it so open-ended that it could have been the implant, the chip that was implanted in her. It could have been her faith. It could have been the chemo treatments. And the directors and the producers talked about how they wanted to leave it open-ended so that the audience could decide for itself. Great art will oftentimes be left open to interpretation and say more about... Look, they always talk about how a writer's choice of material says more about them than it does about the characters in the book, but also how somebody interprets a movie will oftentimes say more about the person who's interpreting it
than about the art itself, especially when, like, I had a tweet over the weekend. I said, I can only hope that I misinterpret every movie that I watch just to piss off the media literacy crowd, because there is a section of the population that wants to tell you that there's one way to interpret a movie, that this director had one way of thinking about it, and you're wrong if you don't see it that way. If multiple people of multiple different backgrounds can look at this movie and see something different in there, and all of them come out of it enjoying it, isn't that great art?
Well, I do lean more toward the idea that art can be objectively good or bad. And you can experience it subjectively and like or dislike it.
Well, yeah,
course.
I mean, we're like at that point, then you get on to what I said earlier, which is the skill and background of the director. Look, one of the other reasons this movie's doing as well as it is, and I haven't looked at the numbers directly, I'm guessing that it's doing really well PLF, premium large format, because this wasn't IMAX. This movie was shot in 5 different aspect ratios and formats, so that it can be viewed on multiple different types of screens. And he released an outline and a list of what the film will look like on each of these different formats. So Christopher Nolan got a shout out in this movie because he helped Ryan Coogler figure out how to effectively use IMAX. Like, I'm not hearing Ryan Coogler talking about the racial aspect of this film. I'm hearing him talking about the format of the film, the inspiration behind the blues scene, and the music and everything like that. There's a lot of great discussion that's heavily focused on the art of this film, not around the identity politics. That stuff is going to be confined mostly to X.
Yeah, I agree. But now I think Variety has taken note of the responses on X, and now they're on the back step, having released this follow-up headline, 5 reasons why Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan's Sinners ruled the box office.
I mean, if I'm being honest,
they were scared into submission.
If I'm being honest, they were probably going to write that article anyways. It just sounds like something you write on the Monday after an article has a sneak win,
maybe,
or has a surprise showing. Granted, I think a lot of people thought that this movie was going to do well, and we did a topic a while ago where I was very excited about this film. I saw people saying they didn't like the trailer. I thought the trailer for this movie was fantastic.
We agreed on that at the time. It's just not interesting enough to me.
Yeah,
I'm not willing to actually go watch it personally.
So my question, I guess, is just did Variety do this on purpose? It was certainly a weird headline that didn't need to be there, but the discussion about budgets, making your money back, all that stuff, that comes up more and more in the trades now, especially online, because a lot of the times the focus goes immediately to whether the movie's going to make a profit or not. They're still, I kid you not, they're still tracking Black Panther so that it can finally make more than Ant-Man 3, so it can be one of the not 5 worst performing Marvel movies of all time. They're still tracking that right now, even though it's out on demand as well. So, look, like it or not, the budgets of movies and the money that the movies make matters, because we talk about Hollywood being all about the message, but look, they're happy to cancel things and give up on stuff if it's not going to make them their money back.
Right.
So.
All right, let's read some super chats. Shane H. Wilder said, "Happy Monday, Brett and Mary. King of Kings was good, and yes, Mary, they showed him exorcising the demoniac and flipping tables with a braided whip." I'm surprised that's in a kid's movie, but I guess, people underestimate the type of kids that are watching these things anyway. They're often babied and coddled too much, so they should see the real thing. Brian Bledsoe said, "Brett, did you watch WrestleMania? If so, thoughts?"
I paid attention to the updates as they came in. I was happy that John Cena won his 17th world title. I heard the match wasn't that good, but that's it looked like both of the Travis Scott appearances ended up being kind of duds. I did like seeing Stone Cold run the 4-wheeler into the barricade. I heard that lady was pissed though. And then I was glad that Tiffany Stratton didn't lose the title to Charlotte Flair, I guess. And what else? Oh, the Seth Rollins the Paul Heyman triple cross. That was cool. That was a great low blow. That was fantastic. There was all sorts of I heard that Donald Trump was going to make an appearance at WrestleMania. I don't know if that actually happened. I certainly didn't see any updates about that. I did enjoy looking at all of the backlash around like Roman Reigns saying like, I'm a registered Democrat, but he was supporting Trump.
Trump is in the UFC.
Trump is in the WWE Hall of Fame. Him and Vince McMahon are great friends, and he's been like at WrestleMania before.
Okay.
Like he's actually like 10 years more than that now.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm saying. It's like more so appearing at UFC events.
he would be right in line. I mean, UFC and WWE are owned by the same company now. Endeavor owns
right.
owns both of them, and he's friends with Vince McMahon, and I'm guessing by extension Triple H, because he's Vince McMahon's son-in-law.
Deep South EDC said, "Hi, Brett and Mary. Brett, did you watch WrestleMania? And if so, what did you think? When do we get a PCC wrestling special?" What would that mean? Actual wrestling on the stream? Probably not.
So I was actually supposed to watch WrestleMania with the Side Scrollers guys over the weekend, but we had wedding stuff to do. So.
Shane H. Wilder said, "I looked it up as I was curious. The church cannot canonize a saint while Apostolica Sedes Vacans, the chair of St. Peter, being vacant." I just realized, like, for 5 minutes, in the grand scheme of things, the Sede Vacantists are finally correct. It is vacant.
Let's do one more. Oh, and yes, it is true.
Know.
Vince McMahon's wife is put in charge of the Department of Education. So there's another connection to the WWE.
Greg Duvier said, "Wait, no PCC on Thursday for my birthday. I'm sad now. I had a great super chat for that day with all my favorites on. I will have to reword it now."
No.
I'm sorry to hear that, but happy early birthday. We'll try to make it up to you when we're back.
Let's hold off on the rest, and then we'll come back. Let's move on.
All right. This morning, we learned that Pope Francis has passed away, and the cause of death was revealed as a stroke, which led to a coma followed by heart failure. I am less interested in, no pun intended, pontificating about what this means for the world and political regimes and the Catholic Church, despite the fact that I'm Catholic myself. I think what is interesting to talk about is the response that we've seen so far online, just from social media users, but also celebrities as well. There are such mixed reactions and so much callousness and cynicism and truly evil stuff out there within minutes and hours of this announcement. And personally, as a Catholic, I think the proper response doesn't deviate all that much from how you would respond to anyone else dying, whether they're notable or not.
There's always
you
the
should
people
not be gloating about someone dying.
There's always the people online who have to be edgy and celebrate the death of someone.
They're either edgy about celebrating someone's death or they're edgy about why they're celebrating someone's life. I've seen both of those types of reactions already from a lot of people. And if you're Catholic and you believe in the Catholic faith and you submit to the authority of Rome, I do think you should pray for the repose of his soul and kind of leave it at that. It's classy to just not opine on these things. You probably don't have anything valuable to say. And yet we see countless celebrities responding to this and heaping praise on Pope Francis. Specifically, Whoopi Goldberg, she posted on Instagram a photo of herself with Pope Francis, which was not actually that long ago.
No, I remember I don't know if we talked about it on the show, but we did mention it.
I remember it, yeah. Saying he was the closest in a long time that seemed to remember that Christ's love enveloped believer and non-believer. He felt more like Pope John XXIII, who made belief real. Sail on, Pope Francis, with your love of humanity and laughter. So even that is a loaded statement.
With political undertones. With
political undertones, based on who Whoopi Goldberg and people in her political ilk believe Pope Francis to have been. Not really knowing who he was or what he stood for. I imagine she would deeply disagree, for instance, with his statements on abortion, but let's ignore that, right?
Yeah.
Then a post from Russell Crowe, who I believe is Catholic, A beautiful day in Rome, but a sad day for the faithful. R.I.P. Francis. Not loaded. I think that's a perfectly normal thing to say. Antonio Banderas said, Pope Francis has died, a man who at the head of the Catholic Church showed kindness, love, and mercy to the neediest people. Sylvester Stallone also posted tribute to Pope Francis. Funnily enough, J.D. Vance was just with the Pope the day before his death. Actually, hours, less than 24 hours before his death. He tweeted, I just learned of the passing of Pope Francis. My heart goes out to the millions of Christians all over the world who loved him. I was happy to see him yesterday, though he was obviously very ill, but I'll always remember him for the below homily he gave in the very early days of his papacy. In the very early days of COVID, it was really quite beautiful. May God rest his soul. And he posted these photos the day before of him meeting Pope Francis literally in his final hours. I don't know if he was aware of that or not. But I saw a lot of reactions from people who dislike both Pope Francis and people who dislike J.D. Vance, saying that he is to blame for his passing, calling him jokingly the angel of death, calling him the Antichrist, saying that he poisoned the Pope, just, calling him the Grim Reaper, making memes about it. It's in such poor taste, in my opinion. And ultimately, I think, your personal opinion of the Pope, especially as a non-Catholic, just it's like literally so irrelevant that it doesn't even need to be voiced. There were also tribute posts from Joe Biden, from Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, from Emmanuel Macron. But those are more statements from like actual politicians. I saw people pointing out the timing as well of the release of the Conclave movie, which
when did that come out?
Last year.
That was like a year ago.
No, it wasn't. It was way less than a year ago.
6 months ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that they did release it in anticipation of Pope Francis's death. I do. Okay. Because it was known for a long time that he was in poor health. It just wasn't for sure that he would die this year. But yeah, it is interesting to see the timing of that, because that type of Hollywood movie is what teaches people for the first time how how they believe the Vatican works behind the scenes, what they know to be a papal conclave, what a cardinal is, and the ultimate message of it, abhorrently, was that basically that the Catholic Church is corrupt to its core, and to the point where they would elect a transgender pope. That was the plot of the movie. Yeah. That they elected a transgender pope, and that this was discovered and accepted by cardinals, which would of course never happen. And
now there's these lists that are going around: the establishment, the reformers, the traditionalists.
This is like Pokemon cards of cardinals. It's insane. I don't think anyone has a deep knowledge of this. I don't. Yeah. I certainly don't have a deep knowledge of how the Vatican works and Vatican political intrigue. Nor does anyone else on the internet, just mouthing off about it. It lists
the establishment as Vatican insiders and power brokers, the reformers as the progressive and globalist wing, and the traditionalists as anti-Francis conservative.
Who knows? Maybe that is accurate. It doesn't really matter. I don't think that we can place bets on who's going to be the next pope at the moment. But there were a lot of reactions from basically woke teenagers pretending that Pope Francis was really special to them, even though they hate religion and they hate the Catholic Church specifically.
Well, they think that he's special to them because he called for a ceasefire in Gaza.
There were a lot of takes of that sort.
Or something like that.
One of them was praising him for being the most progressive pope. Another one said Pope Francis's last message was a plea for peace in Gaza. And then another one saying it should have been Trump. People saying it should have been Benjamin Netanyahu. Just more evil shit, and people making jokes about how he's gonna like resurrect in 3 days. Or
I mean, it
whatever,
was.
'cause
I mean,
it's
that
the
was
day after Easter, of
Yeah.
course. There was some more. Genuinely rest in peace to the Pope. This is from another non-Catholic. That was the first Pope openly accepting of LGBTQ plus people who constantly advocated for Palestine and in general spoke of love for others until the end. And then another one, while Catholics still called LGBTQIA plus people monsters and transgender rights continued to be trampled and invalidated, Pope Francis never once treated them like freaks, always advocating and embracing the community with the purest virtues of Catholic unconditional love. So this is more bloviating from people who have no understanding of Pope Francis, of anything that he ever said publicly or privately, anything that was reported about him that was probably misleading and agenda-driven. And they also have no understanding of Catholic teaching on matters of faith and morals and sexuality because he never contradicted that teaching. And if he seemed to be advocating for something they call unconditional love, he probably was calling for actual love, not acceptance of everything no matter what at all times, regardless of the consequences. That's not the same thing. They think acceptance and tolerance is the same thing as love. And I'm sure the distinction between those things is not lost on Pope Francis, of all people.
So he would say it would fall into the category of love the sinner, hate the sin, but it's still classified as a sin
genuinely
to
all
them.
that he ever said publicly, to my knowledge. He never called for church teaching on homosexuality to be altered. He never called for like a recognition of gay marriage, and just a lot of people in the liberal camp wanted to frame him as their hero and crafted misleading narratives about him for that reason, knowing what they were doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in the traditional camp took that and ran with it in a symbiotic, toxic relationship with the media almost. They were all too happy to accept what media was telling them about Pope Francis because they wanted to hate him.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm seeing so many callous responses from people on all sides. A lot of people just celebrating the fact that he's died, which, even if he were the worst pope in history, which he most certainly isn't, and you can learn about who the worst popes were, it would not be acceptable, and it's certainly not good karma or good juju for you to be celebrating anyone's death like that and talking about how someone will have a lot to answer for on Judgment Day. You should more so worry about yourself, and you have no room to talk about someone like that unless it's someone that you personally were connected to who personally hurt you in some way. And even then, I would say reflecting on yourself is a much more constructive option. But I don't know, Brett, did you have anything to add?
The only thing that, look, given that I don't have a religious background, I thought the part that they said at the end there about, like, what was the last tweet that you read about unconditional love? That's always a weapon that they use.
It was, yeah, it is.
Framed as a way of saying that if you don't support me unconditionally, you're a bad person, despite the fact that they will never support you unconditionally. They are anointed the ability to deserve that from you while not giving it to someone else. There's no grace in that.
Yeah.
At least that's how I would interpret it. It always feels like it's being used. That's kind of an extension of the way they use a person's morality, or the way they use a person's empathy as a weapon against them, which is just part of the dialectic around all that stuff. So,
and for the record, as if it even matters, personally, no, I'm not like the biggest fan of Pope Francis. Also, I realize that my opinion as one person doesn't matter, and I'm not informed as much as other people. And I am someone who goes to a traditional Latin mass. I don't care for the way that has been arbitrarily restricted over the years, like recent years, since like 2021. But I am not going to be so presumptuous as to literally dance on someone's grave. That's just crazy behavior.
okay. All right. Let's go to Superchats.
AI Shih Tzu said, Lent is complete. The Diet Coke must flow. The Diet Coke extends life, expands consciousness. The Diet Coke is what makes space travel possible.
Wait, how is
We have
that?
a Diet Coke stan in the chat.
Damn. Like, how does it make space travel possible? Is it like when you put all the mints into the bottle and then?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Is that how rockets work? Are rockets just big soda bottles that have mints put in them?
Well, they're Mentos, not the. Not
Did I
the
say
mints?
mints?
The Mentos are the.
I mean, that's a mint,
Yeah.
right? It would work with mints, not just Mentos.
Do not recommend eating Mentos and then drinking Coke, though.
So is that
Not
what
good.
rockets really are? Is that all Elon's been doing? Is just putting giant
That's
bottles
been it
of Diet
all
Coke
along.
into space? That
Yeah.
makes sense.
200 Watt Studio said, I don't care how old she is. I would. Okay. I'm not going to say that. That's crazy. Okay. You're never having your super chats read again. Gayton J. Sorry. Ulvin McGoth said pierogi, 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 pierogi.
No, we passed some pierogies at the grocery store on Saturday, and I said no, nay, niet.
Oh, good for you.
Yes.
You're cool.
I did. Yes, I
Seth
am.
Essington said Corn Pop needs to calm down, LMFAO. Why, though?
What did he say?
I'm confused. Dingus Khan said, according to Seamus on X, today is Dingus Day.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
There's a
but
20
okay.
from Weary Traveler.
$20 for Mary's first Taco Bell order.
Well, it is.
Oh, thanks. That's going straight to my Venmo. I have not ordered Taco Bell yet, though. I'm not planning on it anyway, because I'm going to be traveling this week, though.
All
Maybe
right.
when I get back.
Do one more.
Shane H. Wilder said, everyone's an introvert until you shove a phone in front of them and give them a monetized Instagram account. Then they're just annoying. I think that the reason people are more closed in on themselves these days has a lot to do with the fact that people are carrying cameras and platforms around with them at all times.
All right. Let's move on. We've got more to get into.
Yeah. Parents of Gen Z boys are noticing a worrying aesthetic trend. They are hopping on the skinny talk trend, starving themselves in hopes of resembling Timothee Chalamet. This is their icon, the celebrity they want to resemble in his physique. They are actually, ironically, smashing gender norms, hopping on diet trends the way that young girls used to. And it's funny how everyone thought, you know, breaking all those glass ceilings and crushing gender norms was going to just make women more powerful. Ironically, it actually just gave men all of women's problems. Thank you.
Want to start over?
No.
Okay.
So, New York Post interviewed a father of one of these Gen Z boys who is engaging in the trend. He has a 14-year-old son named Ethan. He says he stopped eating junk food and began obsessively counting calories, and he began shrinking. He says he's not eating a lot at mealtime. He's currently 5'8" and 122 pounds. The red flags were mild at first. His son Ethan, this is a pseudonym, is an 8th grader. He started turning down desserts, and one night at dinner, his father noticed him taking photos of the food on his plate, uploading them to an app called MyFitnessPal, which is supposed to calculate the calories of whatever you're eating to go into a calorie deficit. He says he's determined to lose weight, but he doesn't have any to lose. Parents and eating disorder specialists told the Post how more teenage boys and young men have become hyper alert about their physique lately. So it's not cool anymore to work on building muscle and looking buff. It's cool to instead be waifly and thin.
Okay.
Like you could blow away in the wind.
Yeah, it looks like a piece of cardboard.
Yeah, Timothee Chalamet actually recently gained about 20 pounds for his role as Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown. But he has lost the weight since then, and he is basically the blueprint that these boys are following for their own physiques. One professor of pediatrics says today's youth are challenging the gender norm more than they have in the past. In other words, dieting is no longer just the domain of girls. It used to be boys wanted to bulk up. Now actors like Timothee Chalamet are giving them a whole new look to achieve. And a lot of them are flocking together at Timothee Chalamet lookalike contests, which have gone viral in recent months. And they say one runner-up in a Chalamet lookalike contest has noticed the same trend. He says, my friends at school that are girls say they want skinny men. It's so opposite of what you would expect. Every guy I know is really critical of what they eat. It's kind of weird. They pay attention to it. They're always trying to get leaner. And he himself says he's naturally thin and doesn't eat a lot, but he notices other guys are going to extreme lengths to achieve the same look.
Yeah.
And I do notice the same thing. Like, I've noticed actually for a handful of years, women saying that they are into guys who look like they haven't slept in days, and they look like they chain smoke, and they barely eat anything, and they're bony and frail. Like they look like death. They say that openly. And I just think if a guy said that, you would rightfully say, you know, that's effed up. Like, you shouldn't be attracted to someone who looks like they're on the brink of starvation.
What is the evolutionary basis of these, I wonder?
Well, they actually approach a theory on that, and it's more sociological than biological.
I assumed.
The father of this young boy, the 14-year-old, says, girls the age of my son don't feel threatened by a Timothee Chalamet body. So they kind of communicate this to the boys in their grade, I'm sure non-verbally. Then the boys try to emulate Timothee Chalamet's particular brand of masculine acceptability. So the only acceptable way to exist as a man in this virulently anti-male culture is to minimize yourself. Be as non-threatening and harmless as possible, to the point where you're actually physically weakened.
Yeah, well, say that when you run into a really skinny meth head in an alley when they're dying for a fix, and see if you come back with the same answer.
Well, I mean, I'm hoping that these Gen Z boys are not turning to meth and crack.
Adderall for sure.
To lose weight.
Adderall for sure.
That's an unsung hero, I'm sure. But they're mostly talking about starving themselves and eating disordered behaviors. 22-year-old is also interviewed in this piece saying women are straying away from big muscular guys, so men are now interested in losing weight. And he has friends who say they wish they were as skinny as him. So basically, this is a feedback loop where Gen Z women have a certain preference, and the Gen Z guys have to conform to that preference, or else, you know, it's like sink or swim.
Yeah.
You have to conform to what the beauty standard is for men these days. And this is a role reversal. Because I think in the 2000s, it was more so the norm for girls to aspire to this super skinny look to appeal to guys their age. And it's completely flipped on its head. And I think I heard from a think piece recently that men are becoming the new women. They are basically reheating women's nachos. They're doing everything women do. They're primping themselves, manicuring themselves, peacocking, and grooming themselves to the point of obsession. And they exist to be looked at. And the front-facing camera has warped their minds.
I mean, you could say that about both of them.
You could say that about all of them, but it's less surprising when young girls are fixated on their appearances, because you could argue at least that a woman's appearance is more important to her position, her status socially, and her prospects.
I mean, that's going to be true of men in the future, because women are making more money. Eventually, we're going to be living in a society where men will have to preen themselves to find the CEO wife rather than the other way around.
No, exactly. This trend I believe is a sign that that is already a shift taking place now.
I mean, I don't buy for a second that,
That
the
men
women
are stepping
will...
into feminine roles in the reproductive mating strategies.
I don't think that biology and evolution are thwarted that quickly. I think eventually these women grow up and their preference in men changes.
They also say that a lot of these young boys are flocking to a community on TikTok literally called the Skinner Boys. It's this Discover page described as discover tips and tricks for skinny boys to look better in style and fitness, outfit ideas and body transformation stories, fashion tips, how to style a skinny body. This is all for men. And they're bragging to each other about their weight loss and reaching their goals. This is a subset of skinny talk. And now experts are warning against the dangers of the skinny talk community that is encouraging this restrictive behavior. In New York Post, they say at first glance, TikTok appears to discourage the trend because if you search the term skinny talk on the platform, it prompts this message: you are more than your weight, along with links to eating disorder resources. But if you scroll further, they serve endless videos promoting dangerous motivation, skip meals, chug coffee to curb hunger, and celebrate calorie deficits with slogans that read like parodies of self-harm. If your stomach is growling, pretend it's applauding you. To be small, eat small. To be big, eat big. You don't need a treat. You're not a dog. Skinny talk isn't toxic. Your mindset is toxic. And what comes to mind is an influencer like Liv Schmidt, who is massively popular on both TikTok and Instagram. She's had her account deleted multiple times because it's deemed toxic and against the terms of service on TikTok.
Towards women.
She has a female audience.
Yes.
But there are now male influencers peddling the same messages. Personally, though, I think that it's what you make of it. Because when you look at an influencer like Liv Schmidt, she's actually discouraging women from counting calories and encouraging them to have a better relationship with food by not looking to food for emotional regulation.
Yeah.
Which I think is a very constructive message that gets twisted by people who just balk at any sort of weight loss advice whatsoever because they're still clinging to the era of body positivity no matter what, and everyone is beautiful no matter what, which is also stupid.
I mean, that never extended to men anyways.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I saw some of that type of content geared toward men too.
But it was never widely talked about in regards to men. Body positivity was always about accepting fat women. It was not about accepting fat men. Fat men were already accepted as long as they were funny.
I think it was always prone to, or it was always, I think the veer to the extreme of body positivity was inevitably going to swing back in the other direction, and we're seeing the consequences of that. And skinny talk is the result. I mean, the culture is going to ebb and flow, and diet culture is part of that. It also has to do with our economic circumstances. I'm noticing a lot of people pointing out that it's now a trend in high fashion for models to pose with food without eating it, of course. They are using the waste of food as a symbol of opulence. And skinny bodies are also a symbol of opulence because it shows that you have a lot of abundance around you, but the self-control and the disposable income not to consume it.
It's like the guys in Africa who were dumping out bottles of water.
Yeah, right. Literally the same thing. It's
Yeah.
the same thought process in a different packaging.
All right.
I'm seeing a lot of brands that are hopping onto that trend.
Very interesting. All right. Well, either way, Timothee Chalamet is kind of just stupid for being Bob Dylan because Bob Dylan sucks. But other than that,
Also, Timothee Chalamet sucks, and he's not hot, and he never was.
There
I'll
you
just
go.
say that.
all right.
Tophone Man said, thanks for the prayers, but she passed on Friday. R.I.P. Hope you're doing well. Greg Duvier said, Sinner's new IP must go see, want more new movies. What?
I have no idea.
I don't think that's a sentence. Yorishima Otaru said, I'm sick of race-obsessed directors making movies. I do think Ryan Coogler is race-obsessed. Maybe he's just better at hiding it. Jordan Peele is as well.
It's what they're, I mean, they're also, it's probably the scripts that get greenlit for them. They're probably pigeonholed in a way anyways. Even if it wasn't what they wanted to talk about, they're expected to talk about it.
Brian Bledsoe said, how can it be about race when the same media kept defending a Captain America's budget just a few months ago?
Well, they didn't defend Captain America's budget. They gaslit you into believing that the budget was $180 million when all evidence seems to be to the contrary, that it clearly cost more than that to make. I don't know the answer to the question, but in the culture we live in now, it's just people's brain goes to race first, so that's what they're... Like I said, I think it's funnier if the lady just hates David Zaslav or just wants David Zaslav to fail. That's the funnier version of this to me.
It was just surprising to me that they would point out a movie not reaching profitability when normally they run cover for movies that are failing at the box office, including like a lot of Disney projects.
Yep.
So it just... It's giving payola, like, I don't know. Pop Culture Junkie said, Coogler's Sinners deal final cut percentage of first dollar gross copyright reverts to him in 25 years.
Yeah.
Got this deal after Warner's lost Nolan.
Yeah, so he gets to own his movie after 25 years. That's a big deal.
Shane H. Wilder said, I agree with Mary that art can be objectively good or bad. Don't forget there is a 2023 film called Paint Drying. That is a 10 hours and 7 minutes static shot of white paint drying on a brick wall. I didn't know that.
That's so deep. What does it mean?
Wow.
Bro.
I'm surprised we didn't talk about that in 2023.
Is it about like cultural assimilation? Is it like about how you dry and eventually just become one with the culture around you? What does it mean?
Maybe it's about you.
Could be.
It's about the viewer.
Yeah.
It's about your inner turmoil.
Perfect. Maybe it pans back and it's white paint on a white picket fence symbolizing the death of the American middle class and how the American dream just doesn't mean what it did in our parents' time. I bet you that's what it means.
The only improvement that could have been made on paint drying is if it were paint drying on a picket fence instead of a brick wall.
Yeah.
Maybe it's about the wall and how Donald Trump wants to build one.
Yeah.
And it's white paint because he's a white supremacist.
That makes perfect sense. If you look it down, and then on the other side of the wall, it's blood red. Blood on the backs of those who were not allowed into this country. Yeah.
Yeah. So you would agree that that's objectively bad art, right?
It sounds like money laundering.
Okay, are you willing to say that it's objectively bad art, that it's a 10-hour video of paint drying?
I guess. Yeah, sure. It's like those videos.
'Cause there's a limit, right? There's a limit to like subjective interpretation. If you subjectively interpret paint drying to be a good movie, you're wrong.
There you go.
Like, you are objectively wrong. I don't know if, I mean, I'm sure there were some critics who claimed that it was a masterpiece.
It was deep, man.
I prefer Banana Taped to Wall. That was my favorite. Ulvin McGoth said, I believe he once went to Japan and told them to let in Muslim migration.
Talking about
Pope Francis?
Yeah.
Okay. I just don't really know what the point is of you remarking on that, because it's like, yeah, a lot of people are incorrect about issues of public or foreign policy. Like, it's not unique to him, and I don't really understand why so many non-Catholics have this hyper fixation on who is in charge of the Catholic Church. You're not a part of it, so why does it matter to you? And why do you have such a strong opinion on something that, according to you, has zero authority in your life?
Rand Dizzle Swizzle in the chat says, "Take Me Back to Eden" by Sleep Token, a solid song and album. I'm just bringing this up because I was listening to Sleep Token this weekend and thought that it sounded like KI Theory meets Sam Smith. And it was just a thought that was swirling around in my head, and this gave me the perfect opening to use this as a non sequitur. It was good,
I've been having a lot of people tell me to listen to Sleep Token, and I'm starting to turn into a pierogi thing.
So you're oppositionally defiant. You can't make me.
I might if I feel like it. I'm not opposed to it, but everyone's been recommending it to me.
It was good. I listened to multiple songs off of like their YouTube channel or his YouTube channel, whatever there. It's pretty good.
Omega Red Fan said tonight, Game 2 Stanley Cup Blues v Jets, Aves v Stars, Kings v Oilers. Happy Gongo, y'all.
Let's go.
Is
Also,
this hockey language that you don't understand?
That is hockey language you don't understand. Also, I used a Sleep Token, like that popular song of theirs for like a skating edit that I put out this like literally just earlier today. So that is a quinky dink of the highest order. Yes, that's hockey talk. So Blues versus Jets, Avalanche versus Stars, Kings versus Oilers.
Shane H. Wilder said Pope Francis called for love, but he didn't call for acceptance of LGBT. Remember, he said he was tired of the F-ery, bundle of sticks-ery. Yeah, it was some Italian variation of the bundle of sticks word for gay people that he said he was tired of. And that was only last year that was coming out, and suddenly everyone has the memory of a goldfish when it's something that appeals to the opposite crowd. Interesting that. No Control said no soup for you.
Well, there was soup, though. It was a super chat, not soup like the soup Nazi.
Red Snow said won't try a pierogi, but will say Niet, curious comrade.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Isn't "niet" does that mean no in Russian?
Did
I
really?
get that wrong? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Shane H. Wild, you speak Russian?
No.
Suspicious?
I've watched enough TV with Russian bad guys.
Shane H. Wilder said, I'm a fan of Cardinal Robert Serra, a good traditional choice. However, it is not my choice, and I shall accept whomever is chosen. Yeah, that's kind of what we have to do as Catholics, is just accept the choice. And you can have a preference, but I feel like if you're a Catholic especially, who didn't care for Pope Francis's leadership or his personality or his opinions about things, what you shouldn't be is excited about his death. You should be excited about the future. Because otherwise, that's just evil to like gloat about someone dying. There were even people gloating about him suffering when he was sick, and I just thought, that's sick. I hate seeing that type of discourse. Dingus Khan said, Wikipedia says Dingus Day or Smigus Dingus Day is a Polish Catholic holiday on April 21st, also called Easter Monday. Families exchange Paschal eggs.
Okay.
Okay, I know.
I don't know what a Paschal egg is, though.
I know Easter Monday, but I had never heard Dingus Day because I'm not Polish, I guess. Wait, let me look this up.
I'm Polish and I've never heard of it.
I guess that just means it's a decorated egg.
Okay.
Did you ever do the watercolor eggs as a kid?
Yep.
You'd like hard boil them and do watercolors on them? It's funny because like no kid loves hard boiled eggs that much.
No.
It's literally just for the love of the game.
Yep. No, we did that though. I
saw an Easter egg hunt at church where they literally put cash in some of them. But then it made me remember when I did Easter egg hunts at my grandparents' house, they would put like a dollar bill in some of them.
Let's go.
Like that was pretty sweet.
I don't know what when I have kids, they get Cadbury eggs inside the eggs.
That's okay.
Our
That
very sweet kind landlord gave us like an envelope that said Happy Easter, and then it was a bunch of Cadbury eggs, and Olivia couldn't eat hers yet because she wasn't feeling well, so she couldn't taste anything. So she's like, I'm not gonna eat them until I can taste them. So they're sitting there waiting to be eaten now.
People don't talk about this, but you get, as a kid, a way better selection of candy on Easter than Halloween. Halloween, it's a crapshoot. They're giving you toothbrush, giving
apples,
you pretzels, sometimes apples. They're giving you like Those little strawberry candies that your grandma's house always had, giving you butterscotch. Ew. I'm offending some people.
Does anybody actually like butterscotch?
Or even the lollipop. I'd be pissed if I had lollipops in the Halloween basket. Like, that's not
I can get that anytime.
Halloween candy. That's what I eat at the doctor's office. What else? The dots. Hate the dots.
I like dots.
No, the little hard candy on paper.
Oh no, I
Those are
when you told me about
the
that,
ones
I said
about. That was some.
when you told me about that, I'm like, that just sounds like ecstasy tablets.
That was
to
some
me.
shit. Yeah,
But-
that's literally ecstasy tablets for children. I would hate getting Mike and Ike's. I would hate getting sweet tarts too.
Okay.
Or the
I like Mike and Ike's.
I don't know. I never ate them. And then Milk Duds was also a
Are you,
dud.
are you a fan of? You're not a fan of Milk Duds?
It was like, okay, this is passable.
Yep.
But Easter just had way better stuff. No Control said, "Is this a bad trend with the obesity epidemic?"
Which trend?
I think he's implying skinny talk is a good thing because it's counteracting the obesity epidemic.
Suppose. I don't think it's necessarily
know.
a good thing.
I think that just means that there are only really, really skinny people and really, really fat people and not a lot of people in between.
No, there's skinny fat people as well.
Well, the goal now is to be skinny fat. That's
Yeah.
the goal. Pop Culture Junkie said, "Safe travels this week, Mary. Enjoy your pretzels." I most certainly will not be enjoying any pretzels on a plane. I would never be spotted
See, that's the
eating
beauty.
pretzels on a plane.
We're driving back to Michigan, so maybe I'll have to get some pretzels for the road.
Okay, maybe if it's a road trip and they're not handing them out to you, that's your own choice. But it's not acceptable on a 2-hour plane ride. I stand by that. Seth Essington said, "When will you have Vera Dark on again? She's the most entertaining video game live streamer I've ever watched. Also, sorry about the earlier super chat." What are you talking about?
I think his earlier was the one where he said, "I'm not reading any of your super chats ever again." Maybe.
I'm pretty sure that one was from 200 Watt Studio, actually. So I don't know what you did wrong.
I'm
you were fine.
I'm not sure. Like, look, we haven't had guests out in quite some time.
Yeah.
So
More so a thing of the past for
Yeah.
now, at least.
it's expensive to do so.
Mhm.
It really is.
Shane H. Wilder said, "No one has to be Alan Richardson.
Ritson. Ellen.
But to be real thin and weak is not good for testosterone. There is a balance without acting like narcissists." Yeah, I agree. It doesn't need to be an extreme one way or the other. And I'm guessing that the girls they're talking about in the article are actually children who have no idea what they would find attractive as adult women.
I think that most of those women that, like I said, I think that their taste in men will change as they get older.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So if they're saying that like all guys should look like Timothée Chalamet, you probably just shouldn't listen to them. Shane H. Wilder said, "I forgot paint drying was filmed in 4K because cinema."
Well, yeah, of course.
You'd see every little droplet of paint
as it actually becomes crystallized, and then
as it calcifies.
and you just picture the most pretentious person going like this, explaining what it's gonna look like.
There's like a subliminal message in it.
Yep.
The way that the paint's moving.
It's like, do you remember in Big Fat Liar when the guy's like, "Birds, sting," and he's like pitching the movie to the guy, and he's like, "Birds," and the guy's like, "That sounds expensive."
I bet one of the critics listened to paint drying in surround sound and they swear you can hear it.
Well, no, it's like those videos. It's like 7 hours of nature sounds, and it's like a log cabin that you can see outside the window in. That's art, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's art.
More so than paint drying, at least.
Yep.
Pop Culture Junkie said, "It took me a year to execute a calorie count diet without hunger. So worth it. Can indulge and have a dessert occasionally without guilt." Yeah, it's, people overcomplicate this stuff a lot. And everyone is a snake oil salesman online and swears to you that they have this magic fix. It's just like with everything else, there is not. That doesn't exist.
I hadn't eaten chips for like 2 months, and then like last week I had some, and then this past weekend we went to that,
The Utz Factory.
The Utz Factory, and got like 2 garbage
Did you
bags
get
of
all
stuff
the
for like
flavors?
$6.
Like all the different flavors of it?
No, just stuff that we would want for like big bags for like 50 cents a piece. It's like it really should be criminal. The amount of people in there who were normal size though is crazy. Like I was expecting everyone in there to be
It's a
like
special occasion. They're not eating chips like all day, every day.
it was crazy.
I just went to a novelty candy store and I looked at some of the Japanese candy. I got those like cookies that look like fish, and they aren't
I know
flavored like fish. And I got the Japanese Kit Kats. One of them was milk tea flavored, and the other one was, gosh, you hate everything.
No, I
hate everything.
I had a bad experience with that because I got like a weird. So I had I don't remember who gave them to us, but had like a bunch of normal Kit Kats. And then like one of the weird flavored Japanese ones. And you know, it's like when you eat something and you're not expecting it to taste different and then it tastes really different and it freaks you out.
You got a milk tea one?
I don't know if it was milk tea. I don't know what it was, but it did not taste like a normal Kit Kat and it freaked me out.
I really need to try the matcha ones. And I also had the orange chocolate one, which was good, but not as good as milk tea. And dark chocolate raspberry Kit Kat is still elite. We have a 20 from Ezek. Sinners was more mid-trash slop. Really boring for 1 hour, then suddenly good for 30 minutes at the end when some Among Us vampire crossover happens. The death of the DVD and all the money people could recoup from has ruined cinema.
Yeah, so, I mean, that funny. Oh, man, I should have brought that up in the when I did the video earlier. The one, and then now people are going to comment on it, the Matt Damon clip from Hot Ones, that, you know, there is no market for the mid-budget movie anymore because they can't make the money back on DVD sales the way they used to before. Pay VOD only goes so far, and then it goes straight to streaming.
Shane H. Wilder said, agreed, Mary. I didn't always agree with Pope Francis, but I respected him as my pope and would never speak ill of him. It's been mostly like non-Catholics saying either the most effusive praise of him or the most disgusting vitriol, and then actual Catholics are not doing either of those things. Red Snow said, are the Pretzels legal if Olivia hands them to Brett, or does he have to be in possession of said Pretzels the entire time?
I will bring them myself.
Well, if you're driving,
you
can't have one hand in the pretzel bag.
We also went to the Snyder's of Hanover outlet store, because Snyder's of Hanover is, oddly enough, in Hanover. Crazy, I know. Owned by Campbell's, so all the other brands that Campbell's owns were there too, like Snack Factory, which makes the really good like thin pretzels. And I got honey mustard and onion, which is not a flavor. I normally get the buffalo, like the buffalo sauce flavored ones. Those are really, really good, but I found one that you didn't have. But the prices were way worse at Snyder's of Hanover. It's basically a regular price. Why would I go to the outlet store if I can get them for a regular price somewhere else?
Marco said, off topic, but I just finished all seasons of White Lotus these past weeks. It's a good show, but there was a core mechanic in season 1 that seems to be lost in later seasons. Watch if you haven't yet.
That reminds me, I'm going to show people this video that I put up on X over the weekend that I took from a guy. I posted it, took it from Instagram, but this guy, when Kino Corner does Literally Me, I found Literally Me.
Yeah.
I found
he does a series like that.
I found Literally Me.
Did you watch White Lotus? No.
Hold, please.
Thank you. That interrupted everything.
I found my own version of Literally Me.
Did you watch White Lotus? No. I'm watching USA Network's Psych for the 4th time. I have terrible taste in television, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. Have you seen the state of the world? This is how I'm coping.
Hold, please. There we go.
Formulaic television. It's my version of meditation. You want better mental health? You should probably go to therapy. Can't afford therapy? Watch White Collar or Suits. You will become enlightened because you'll just completely empty yourself of anything as you watch the most basic TV ever. A lot of y'all are watching prestige television and doing like deep dive analysis of like the cinematography. I'm emptying my mind will tuning into Burn notice. This is what's going to heal you. And sure, yeah, every once in a while, I'm going to tune into a Severance. I'm going to watch it. But to make it in today's world, with all the burdens of being a human being in 2025, bad TV will save you.
You should be friends with this guy.
I know.
He understands you on a spiritual level.
He, I like the microphone attached to the the wooden spoon.
That's creative.
But yeah, that man is I disagree with the premise. He's a comedian, so I believe part of it is just comedy. But I disagree with the premise that they were bad shows. I would actually argue that if the thing that makes something prestige television is just the cinematography, then bleh. But the writing was arguably way better between 2008 and 2013 on the USA Network than most of the stuff that's coming out today. But that's just me.
Well, sometimes it's formulaic because the formula just works.
I started watching The Listener over the weekend. Olivia's liking it. Sometimes I feel bad for her because I have to like subject her to like new shows as I try them. It was about a paramedic who has telepathic capabilities back in 2009. And I just like it because it's unapologetically Canadian, like takes place in like Toronto.
Okay.
And it's just the most mega Canadian show you've ever seen with all the Canadian actors. Everyone argues with Canadian accents except the lead, who doesn't sound the least bit Canadian at all. But everybody else does. Mm-hmm. But it's great.
The Listener.
Yep.
Because he's listening to their thoughts.
Yeah. Yep.
No Control said the definition of insanity is seeing meaning in the meaningless. Shane H. Wilder said someone gave me a chocolate crucifix with raspberry filling because they thought I would appreciate it. They were wrong. I can't even.
Wait, so
I would feel very wrong about eating that. Yeah, no.
Like where you're like, how do I?
You can't.
Do you break
There's no right way.
Do you break it up so it no longer forms?
There's no right way to do that. Alvin McGoth said, I work for an Asian family. I have access to so many odd snacks. It's great. Yeah, lots of flavors they just will never sell in the U.S. That's why I go to H Mart. Greg Duvier said, happy early 38th birthday by 3 days to me. It will be my last childless birthday. My wife and I will be having twins this summer. We are very excited.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
A huge change in your life, but a welcome one, I'm sure.
Antonius Block in the chat says, to that argument, often what some people consider formulaic is just traditional storytelling, but authentic, true formulaic stuff sucks. I think formulaic just like it's like that's like saying that the hero's journey is formulaic because it follows the same.
It is formulaic and it's good and it works.
Exactly.
There are creative flourishes that you can do around that, though.
Mm-hmm.
I was just watching The Song of the Sea from Studio Canal, and it's such a good kids movie that also can appeal to adults. And there's so much, like, it's the hero's journey, but it's also like weirdly has a lot of religious imagery and like Catholic undertones to it as well. And I realized like this is so formulaic, but I love it because it's just the right formula and they're not fighting to make something unique by destroying all of the archetypes that we love to see.
Yeah.
Shane H. Wilder said, prayers for a safe trip, Mary. Enjoy watching Impractical Jokers. Don't get sick. Get someone else sick. Turnabout is fair play. Yeah, what I tend to do is I go to my hotel room and I watch Impractical Jokers, and somehow in the midst of all this, I get violently ill with something. I come back and I'm out of commission. But this time, I think I'll be okay. It's a short trip, and you'll be seeing the fruits of it months from now. But,
yeah, take forever. Yeah. All right, guys, before we go, hit the like button on this video, would you please? And subscribe to the channel if you are new here and you have not subscribed here yet already. Thank you for doing so. Really, no, seriously, hit the like button. It helps us a lot.
No, really, though. We're serious, though.
Where can they find you, Mary?
You can send me validation on Instagram at Mary Archived, or you can send me hate on X. That is also Mary Archived.
Perfect. If you guys want to follow me, I'm on Instagram and Twix at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. The show is 5 days a week, normally 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, we will be live Monday today, tomorrow Tuesday, possibly on Friday. We will put out a community note with updates as that comes in. But thank you guys so much for bearing with us, and we will be back. Hopefully, if not Friday, we will for sure be back the following Monday, but we will be here tomorrow. So if you want to follow us on social media, we are on Twix at @popculture_show, Facebook at Pop Culture Crisis, Instagram at Pop Culture Crisis Pod. Guys, we will be back with another episode of this show tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.